Good morning, Jordan here. Along with Cory, we are doing some charging training today, and you can see behind Cory there's my Zappi at my house that I fitted a while ago for my EV charger. And today what we're going to be doing is training Cory on how to install Zappis. So we're going to get him to disassemble this and then reassemble it, and then we're going to take it out completely and we're going to swap it for a Tesla charger, and we're going to run through how to install the Tesla wall connector. So it should be a fun little video. Hit a thumbs up if you like the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, it's free, and let's get into it. So Cory, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to disconnect this charger and then reconnect it again.
Great.
Go for it.
Well, I'll switch it off at the board.
That would be a good first step.
My lock-off kit.
Yep.
Unless you just have some tape, I can just...
You've been learning from real electricians.
Right, be right back. I've locked out.
Yep.
Tagged out. And the display's off. So be off. How on earth I take this apart? I don't know.
So I'll show you. So this cover here, it just clips on.
All right.
So there's these two clips underneath. You just push those out like that, and then the cover just comes off, and that reveals the screws. A little gentle caress, as we do with all our products. And then you just undo all those screws. So you can see obviously your main connections there.
Is that your pen fault device?
Exactly. So well, those are just contactors, but the pen fault stuff is built into this circuit board.
The earth is going through the contactor there.
Exactly. Yeah. So these contactors just activate. So they're normally closed, and then when there's a pen fault, they open to cut off the feed to the charger and the earth to the charger as well. Because the idea is that in the event of a pen fault, you don't want to be able to have contact with the car, which is connected to the PME earth, and then contact with the ground as well, because the whole casing of the car could come live and then you could get a shock.
Yeah, makes sense. So I can prove it dead.
Yeah.
Can't actually see it in the sun. Yeah, we're good. What would the eSense be for?
So the eSense terminals are for when you've got like a special meter that has an eSense connection, and it will communicate with the meter. So to be honest, I don't think it's necessary for us to disconnect all these conductors and stuff at the moment. I can just talk you through it now that the cover's off. So you've got your mains incoming connections. Like it says there, you need to torque it up to 1.2 Newton meters. Usually put ferrules on the cable as well, if it's a stranded cable. eSense terminals we basically never use. These are your CT connections.
They're the current transducers.
Current transformers, that's what, yeah, I think that's what CT stands for. And these are just like a little clip-in thing, so you can wire the CT wires into that. Each Zappi comes with one CT, which if you're close to the electric meter, you can do a hardwired CT. And the CT is to measure the input from the grid,
Right.
basically. So, thanks. So, the idea with this charger is it measures how much power is coming in from the grid. It can also measure if you've got renewable energy generation like solar, it can measure how much input is coming in from your solar if you have another CT on your solar feed. And then what it can do is balance it so that it only uses solar, for example, to charge your car. You can put it on an Eco Plus setting where it will only use excess solar, and rather than sending it back out to the grid, if it's above like 1.1 kilowatts or something, it will just put it into the car. You can also connect battery storage to it as well with another CT so that you can have, you know, everything kind of like working together.
Right.
But in general, most scenarios when we install this, it's literally just the grid CT that we use. Some customers have solar, so we'll use the solar CT as well, but most of the time it's just the grid CT. And the advantage of having that is that you can set up a like digital fuse, basically, where you can set the maximum current demand for the installation to, say, like if it's a 100 amp fuse, you can set it to 95 amps, so that if ever the whole house is using nearly over the current rating of the fuse, it will ramp the charger down to avoid that the car charging is pushing it over and blowing the main fuse.
Right, okay.
So if you're close to, say if our electric meter was just here, it would make sense to run a hardwired CT. You clamp that onto your main live tail for your meter and you do it that way, but it's too far, so we've not run a hardwired CT. What we've got is a wireless CT.
So is that made by Zappi?
Which is in the meter box, yeah. So there's this little device called a Harvi, which I'll show you in the meter box, and that wirelessly sends a signal from the CT and tells the charger how much current is being used. So it does the same thing, but it's just wireless.
Is that just like a 420 milliamp signal or something, or a 0 to 10 volt?
What, the actual wired CT?
Yeah.
I don't know how many volts it is, to be honest. It's very clever because it just creates a small amount of power just by the current going through the CT, and that powers the actual Harvi device. It's self-powered, so it doesn't have any batteries or anything. So the pen fault detection in this, how it works is it works off two ways, voltage and current, because according to the regs, you can do pen fault detection based on like a set to like a high voltage or low voltage, and if it goes out of those parameters, then it will cut off because it thinks that there's a pen fault. But under normal conditions, sometimes you can get voltage fluctuating outside of those parameters, and then you get nuisance tripping. So this has current detection as well for the pen fault, so it's sort of like it will only kick in to say that there's a pen fault if you've got the voltages outside the parameters and there's a current going somewhere that it shouldn't, for example. Then it will kick in, so it's much better. And MyEnergi have actually patented this, so anyone else who wants to use this technology, they have to basically license it from MyEnergi. Yeah, this is quite clever. So the fixings, you've got one at the top, 3 sort of at the bottom middle here, and then 1 right at the bottom. And they come with these screws. So you've got these nice stainless steel screws with these washers that have got rubber grommets behind. And you need to use those washers to keep the IP rating of the casing. That you only ever use 4 screws. So there's always 1 spare, but you can choose which ones you use. And then you've got a little bung to plug up the spare hole that you don't use. So it's important to make sure that you always plug up the one that's not in use, otherwise you're going to let water in, basically. But the whole thing is very nice, like nice build quality, and it's got loads of space inside.
Yeah.
So it's really...
Well, you've got loads of space there to get your nice swoop on the cables.
Exactly, yeah. And you always take your cable entry in the bottom. I suppose technically you could probably do a
I was going to ask that next.
But then
if you
when
had
you
the cable coming out of the wall, could you
Could you take it through the back there, that little, is that a knockout plate?
Absolutely, yeah. So you can just cut out here and put a, put a compression gland in, for example, and gland straight into the back of it if you wanted to. The only thing with that is that you'd have to have enough space to hide the compression gland behind. I have done it before where I've just reversed the compression gland and had the compression gland coming in like that. And
so then you can install that on any earthing system?
Yeah, that's the great thing about it. You don't need an earth electrode. It's got built-in Type A RCD protection with 6 milliamp DC, so you don't need an RCD for it unless the cable needs an RCD, and you can just fit it and it just does everything. So it's so easy. All you do is MCB in the consumer unit, steel wire armoured or clip direct cable, straight in, done, you know. It's just brilliant. So like you can see here, we've just put it on a, I think it's on a 40 amp breaker, I think, in the consumer unit. I think MyEnergi have changed their recommendation now to a 32, but I can't remember. It is in the manufacturer's instructions anyway, whether it should be a 32 or a 40. And then all this circuit board just does everything for you, all the safety stuff, really. Yeah, you can't take the cables in the side, because what will happen is if you wrap that round, it's going to stop it, and it would look horrible anyway. So only ever take the cable in the bottom or in the back, basically. You can get tethered or untethered, and you can get black or white.
Does it come pre-wired, this cable, or do you have to wire
that in? This is pre-wired. It comes exactly as you see it. So all you have to do is fit your supply cable and your CT cables, and then just set everything up, basically. So it's super easy. So what we'll do, I'll show you the Harvi and how to program that, and I'll show you the hub, because the hub is what plugs into your router and makes it a smart charger, so that you can get the app and you can monitor how much energy you're using. You can do smart scheduling and stuff like that with it for charging times.
One more question with the CTs. If you had solar, say other like renewable energy sources, could you mount more than 3 CTs? Obviously you've only got 3 inputs there for the physical ones. Can you pair up as many of those wireless ones as you wanted?
It's only got 3 CT connections for the Harvi as well, so I think the maximum that you can, I'm not sure if you can do more than 3.
Or could you have 3 wireless ones, so say 1 in your loft on the solar, 1 on there on your mains incoming, say 1 on a wind turbine or something else?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the limit is on the number of CTs. I mean, technically you can obviously do 3 hardwired. The Harvi has 3 connections on it as well. So if you ran then like 3 CTs off the Harvi, maybe you could do 6 in total. I know that there's a device limit for the MyEnergi Hub, that you can only have up to like 5 devices in total or something. So you could have, for example, like 3 Zappis, a Harvi and a hub, and then that would be your system where you could have 3 chargers.
You'd decide what you wanted it on anyways. You wouldn't really need to have like 3 supplies coming into it, but yeah. I was just wondering, it's going to cover 99% of homes, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And the grid limit feature is great, because what it means is that you don't, say the customer's got a 60 amp main fuse, you can install the Zappi even if they've got a 60 amp main fuse, and you can just put a grid limit in for say 55 amps. Obviously we usually would recommend that they get it upgraded to 100 anyway, but it means that you don't have to wait for the DNO to upgrade the fuse. You can put it in, and then once it's been upgraded to 100 amp, you can just come and lift up the grid limit, or they can do it themselves. It's really easy in the settings. Lift up the grid limit to 95 or whatever later on. So it's just like really flexible. So this is what one of these comes as standard with every Zappi. 1 wired CT, which is for your grid. If you need more than 1, then you have to order them separately. But that just clips around your tail for your meter basically, and then it just comes with a 5 meter cable, which you just wire in to the positive. So the red is positive, black is negative, and you just wire that into your CT1 terminal, and then you assign it within the charger or to say what it's actually doing. So CT1 is your grid CT, for example. You have to assign it, otherwise it won't.
So you would have to order the Harvi separate with every...
Yeah, that if you need wireless CTs, then you have to order the Harvi separately.
In most situations, you probably would want to use the wireless to save you running that in.
Yeah. The other option, what we can do, and we're going to try and do this a bit more soon, is you can get this EV Ultra cable, which it's like this 6mm SWA, but it's also got a Cat5 in it, and that is all in one cable. It's got a shielded Cat5 within it, and so then you've got 6 wires that you can use for 3 hardwired CTs, and you can then split the 2 cables off at the consumer unit, for example, and then extend them to wherever you want to put your CTs. So that's quite a nice, neat way of doing it. I mean, technically you could just run, this like that or something, but it would look horrible, or you could run a separate external grade data cable. But again, running 2 cables together, it just looks a bit horrible. So it's either running a EV Ultra cable with Cat5 in it, or wireless CTs basically, unless you can neatly run these in if the meter's close by. I usually end up with loads of spares of these because I don't usually end up using them because I use the Harvi. But I'll show you the Harvi. So this is my electric meter box.
It's a cool screwdriver for it.
And as you can see, this is our CT on our main live tail, and then that's the Harvi.
Great.
So all you do, it just screws on. Yeah, that's it. So it's self-powered, no batteries, and it literally just takes a little bit of power from the this CT. From the fact that it's got current flowing through it, it manages to produce its own little bit of energy to then send a signal. So you can see it's just flashing there. It's sending a signal over to the Zappi, and that's on its own. Zappi has its own signal protocol, so it's not like a Wi-Fi connection or something. This is communicating directly with the Zappi using its own special signal protocol. And you literally just wire, you've got 3 little holes in the bottom, so these are just like little stoppers. So you just take your CT wire through one of those, and then these are push fit connections for the CT. So you just push those down, pop your wire in, and then let go, and then they hold in, and you've got 3 CT connections: CT1, CT2, CT3. That's the signal, I guess, 868 megahertz signal. And then you just screw the back plate back, pop the top on, and then just lever it down, and it clicks into place. The CT has a certain direction that it needs to be. So you've got an arrow. Can you see the arrow there?
Yeah.
That needs to point towards the meter. So basically that arrow needs to be going the right way, otherwise it'll get a bit confused. And basically, as soon as you connect this there, and once the Zappi's livened up, you go into the Zappi menu and you pair it up with this. You put the Zappi into pairing mode, and it will detect this, and you pair it up. So I'll show you how to do the pairing in a sec. So this is the hub. As you can see, it's got red lights on the Harvi and Zappi at the moment because they're powered off, but the green power light is on. That means obviously this is powered up, and the server light is green. That means it's got internet connection. What we'll do, so basically it comes with a power cable, which is just wire, and then it comes with a little data patch cable, this little flat data patch cable. There's a serial number on the back, which is important for the grant. You have to take a photo of the hub with the serial number to show that it is a smart charger, because without this, the Zappi isn't actually a smart charger. And the requirements of the OLEV grant are that it needs to be smart in order to qualify for the OLEV grant. So you always have to take a picture of the hub with the serial number. Just basically take a picture of the back in order to prove that it's a smart charger for the grant. So what we'll do is just unplug this. And then we'll power up the Zappi, reset it so that it's like a brand new system, and then we'll go through the whole setup process. The Eddy is basically exactly that. It's a water heater that is programmable with the hub, so that when excess solar energy is coming in, it can use that to heat the water, and that all links up with the hub as well.
Is that instantaneous water heater, or can you store it in a tank?
It's like for an immersion heater basically.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So the idea is if someone's got solar, they can prioritise, for example, first of all heat the hot water. Once the hot water's heated, charge the car. Once the car battery is full, charge the storage battery if they've got like a Tesla Powerwall, for example. And then once that's full,
that as well?
Sell it back to the grid. You know. Yeah, you can get like a link, like a circuit board that links into the Tesla Powerwall to add the Tesla Powerwall to this system too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So as you saw, when you power it on, it goes. It's the Final Fantasy music, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, it's from one of the Final Fantasy computer games. Maybe you're too young to know what Final Fantasy is.
I've heard of it. Actually.
Okay. So first things first is to set the. So this is the menu button. You press the little. We call it the pizza boxes.
Looks like a burger.
Press that to go into the menu. I wonder if we can just do a complete reset on it. So if we go to other settings, advanced, the passcode by default is 0000, so you just press the little plus button to flick through that, and then that takes you into the main menu. If I go to System, Restore Settings, Erase All.
I think you'd have to select them, the ones that you want.
If we do Erase All, that should basically just wipe the whole thing, which I think is fine. Reset Zappi, auto data will be erased. Yes. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so still got the correct date and time. I think 18th of November, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is it picking up? It doesn't look like it's picking up the Harvi or the hub. So hopefully we can reprogram it now. So if you go in and plug the hub in, so we've got the latest firmware updated on the hub now. What we need to do is make sure that this is paired with the hub now that the hub is plugged in. So you press the menu button, then you go down to linked devices info, and you can see that there's no linked devices on there, so we need to link it up with the hub. So to do that, what you do is you go to other settings, then you go to advanced, password default 000, then you go to linked devices, and then you go to pairing mode. This is now in pairing mode, and what we need to do is press the pair button on the hub, and then it will sync and pair with this. So if you go and press the pair button, yeah, that's as simple as that. And now, look what's appeared on the screen.
The hub.
Yeah, the hub has appeared. So if you just press the plus button on there now, that it's got a little question mark. Just leave, yeah, just wait a second. It says updating, and it's counting down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then that should appear. That is now confirmed that that has paired. So now we need to do the same for the Harvi. So if you go back to the menu, and then pairing mode, and then go to the Harvi, and just press the pairing button on the Harvi. It's just literally just press it once. So do exactly the same what you did for the hub.
There we go.
That's it.
Ah.
All connected up. So now we need to make sure that it knows which CT we're using and make sure that's all good. So if you go back to the menu and then yeah, if you just click devices and then select the Harvi.
It's updating.
We mustn't forget to download the latest firmware as well to this device from the hub.
That didn't seem to do anything.
No, okay, might have to go to
CT
config, that's it.
configuration.
Then yeah, you've got CT1. So this is internal, I think. So if you put CT1 as none, yeah, that's it. Because we're not using the internal CT. And if you go back to the menu, go back again, and then I think it should be
Supply grid maybe? Or
that's to the grid limit. Go to system. No, okay. Try linked devices again, and then devices. Try the Harvi and just see what. Yeah, that's it. So you see there you've got your 3 CT settings, and CT1 is down as none at the moment, but we want to change that to grid. That's it. And then CT2 and 3 are not used, so that's perfect. You can go back to the main menu. And now, if you go all the way back, you should see on the screen the grid sending power to the house. Can you see that?
yeah.
And that's telling us that we're using 0.2 kilowatts of electricity in the house. If the vehicle's charging, then it will show another arrow going to the charger and to the vehicle, and it'll tell us like 7 kilowatts, for example, is going to the vehicle, and that figure will obviously be 7.2 kilowatts because the house is using 0.2 and the car's using 7, for example. And then if you've got a CT and you've got solar, it will show you how much is importing from the solar as well. So it'll say like 1 kilowatt coming in from the solar, 6 kilowatts coming in from the grid, 7 kilowatts total going into the house.
Wow.
It's quite cool, huh? And when you tap it, the light comes on. So usually, like if someone unplugs it or something, or they give it a little tap, if it's dark, the screen will come on. And all of this comes up on the app as well, so I'll show you that in a minute. But we need to update the firmware. So if you go back into the menu, and then go to other settings, advanced, system, and then download firmware. It goes into this little bootloader mode and it sort of resets. It tells us what the firmware is, version 2.176, so it looks like the firmware is already up to date. You need to know how to change the date and time on here as well, because normally when you get them, the date and time won't be correct. So if you go to other settings, and then you've got date and time there, so the easiest is just setting that, and you can set it to do auto daylight savings time as well, so that it'll automatically adjust when daylight savings time happens.
Update from cloud as well.
You can get it to update from the cloud, yeah, so that if it's connected to the hub, it'll just automatically do that. But that's important to remember, because sometimes I've done that, I've forgotten to change the date and time on it, and then it's not accurate. Now, in order to pair it with the app, you have to get the hub registration code from here and put it into the app when you set up an account on the app, and you need to be able to help the customers to do that. So what you do is you go to the menu button, then you go to information, and then you go down to the second page, hub registration code, and it's got this code here. That code then needs to be added into the MyEnergi app, and that will pair the account that they have on the app with the hub, and then it'll start to show up on their app. So I'll show you how to do that now. Right, well, we digressed slightly and got into a debate about hydrogen fuel cells, because Cory is a little bit of an expert when it comes to hydrogen fuel cells.
Oh, I'm not an expert.
Having worked on stuff on his previous projects. But anyway, we're getting there now, so training on this is pretty much complete. So hopefully that's been an interesting and enjoyable little video for you. Do you feel like you understand Zappis a bit better now?
Yeah, actually, I'm really impressed, to be honest. I think they're a fantastic product. I'm not surprised that you kind of tend to use them as your base. Like really easy to pair, really easy to wire up. Yeah.
They're awesome. Yeah, really awesome. So hopefully you're going to be fitting plenty of these over the coming months. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hit a thumbs up. And we'll see you on the next one.